Hi, I'm Chase Tagmo with this week's episode of Beyond the Sidelines. I'm joined with Will Stevenson and Anthony Savani. First off, Tiger Woods involved in a single car crash.
Very sad to see Tiger get in this accident. It was a single car accident, as Chase just said, but it's still scary when you see someone, especially because he's turned his life around. After a couple of years of being in a very, very dark, bad place, he turned it around and then he won the Masters again. So I think it's sad that he's in this accident. But if anyone can come back from it, it's going to be him.
Yeah, I mean, he had the greatest comeback story, and then Alex Smith took it. But I mean, what he did, coming back from injury and then winning his first PGA after that, it's inspiring what he does. And to see that he got in a car crash that was almost life-threatening. Luckily, the injuries weren't broken leg, shattered ankle. But other than that, nothing really happened. He's going to go undergo surgery soon.
He has undergone surgery, and he's doing great.
Still can barely walk, but I mean, praise out to him. Hopefully, he's doing fine now.
Well, I feel like barely walking is something that happens when you get your leg cut open. So.
Bucks win their second Super Bowl and Brady wins his 7th ring and 5th MVP.
Very sad to see that the Chiefs didn't win that Super Bowl, and Brady did not deserve the MVP of that game. It was either Leonard Fournette or Rob Gronkowski for the MVP of that game. The only reason Tom Brady got it is because his name is Tom Brady.
Well, I mean, I think it was inevitable. I thought they were going to win. I wanted the Chiefs to win, but I always thought the Bucks were going to win the Super Bowl. But Tom Brady in the Super Bowl is just ridiculous. I mean, 3 first-half touchdowns, 2 to Gronk, and 1 to AB, which is obviously inspiring on what his comeback was. But Tom Brady just does Tom Brady things whenever he's in the playoffs. He doesn't lose. Every time he goes behind, he comes back. And everyone thought the Chiefs, when they got off the 3-0 lead, we're going to their offense is going to start to push on, but the Bucs defense.
And their receivers played terrible.
Rod Mahomes was the best play of the century there, did. But no, the Bucs defense had a game plan. They went out, they blitzed off the edge with the Chiefs missing their 2 starting tackles, and that hurt them, obviously. I think you're kind of right with Brady not deserving the MVP. I think it should have been like Devin White or something. He was tremendous all game. Shut down Travis Kelce and had the pick at the end of the game to seal it. But again, Brady's Brady, so he won the MVP because he's Brady and won his 7th ring out of 10 Super Bowls.
It's crazy, dude.
Eagles trade Carson Wentz to the Colts for a 3rd and a conditional 2nd.
This is a very painful moment for all Eagles fans because Howie Roseman has more draft picks to mess up.
True.
Howie Roseman is terrible. He needs to get out of there. He's not the problem. No, he is the problem. Doug Peterson was not the problem. Carson Wentz was not the problem. Howie Roseman was the problem. He misses on clear-cut prospects in the draft every year.
Yeah, but I mean,
without fail.
He led that. I remember he was the general manager when they won the Super Bowl, and that's what the Eagles front office is looking at when they look at him. I get that he's bad drafting, but he won the Super Bowl.
What has he done for me since then?
Yeah, I know. Since then, he's
barely made the playoffs and missed the playoffs the other 2 years.
Right. But I mean, that's what the front office looks like. I think one more year with bad drafting. If they don't draft Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith, if they draft someone like Jalen Waddle, who would still be a good pick, but if the other 2 were on the board, then I think he'll be gone. That'd be a horrible pick.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the Colts, this is a win trade. I mean, they finally got their quarterback. Phillip Rivers took them to the playoffs, but Carson Wentz can take them further in the playoffs. He was great under Frank Reich, and now he's back under him. And they finally have a quarterback. They have the defense that they have. They have a good run game. They have decent receivers. I think they probably should have one more weapon for him. But other than that, I think this team is now complete and ready to contend.
Yeah.
Texans released J.J. Watt.
This was shocking news when I saw it, but then again, everyone wants out of Houston. But J.J. Watt's been there for 10 years. He's a legend in Texans ice. He's the Hall of Famer from the Texans. And seeing him released, it was weird because, again, he's been there for 10 years. He's the main stand on that defense. He's the guy that helps out the rest of the defensive players. And with other guys like Deshaun Watson wanting out, to see that J.J. Watt was released before Deshaun Watson was traded was kind of weird to see that, considering Deshaun was adamantly known about it. We didn't know J.J. wanted out.
I think we did. I think we did know J.J. wanted out by the way he went and talked to Deshaun Watson at the clip of him going up to Deshaun Watson saying sorry for wasting one of your seasons or whatever. And then I think there were reports coming out way before it happened that J.J. Watt was going to get released. I mean, it was surprising that it actually happened, but I think that it was inevitable. He's a big name star playing amazing football who's been there for a long time and has stood with the organization through some really, really, really rough patches. And now, through the rough patch, like, he stayed with them through the rough patches, and now as soon as it's really, really bad, he stayed with them through too many rough things, and then they just said it was a mutual parting of ways. And it's just so that he could have the opportunity to go win a Super Bowl.
And then I think J.J. Watt wanted to release the video of him saying that he released before anyone else, and the Texans and the NFL posted it first. I guess that kind of, the Texans, they're just a mess of an organization right now. They need to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien tore it down, I think.
Yeah. But at least he tore it down, which I guess is what he wanted. So.
Fernando Tatis Jr. signs mega 14-year, $350 million deal with the Padres.
I like this signing. I think he hasn't played that many games. He's only played like 143 games or whatever, or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but in those games, he's played amazing baseball. Last year, he was part of that amazing Slam Diego Padres, hitting grand slams, home runs, everything. And like they had a record. I think they were on a pace to set a record for most grand slams in a game. I mean, consecutively. And I think that he deserves it. And keeping him and Manny Machado together for years to come is a very good idea for the Padres.
I mean, I get that he's the new face of the league, he's the face of the franchise in San Diego. I just don't like it. Again, you barely played. He's a superstar still, but 14 years, 350 is a lot of money to fall back on. If it doesn't work out, you can't move him, and you wasted a lot of money on this guy. And again, it's an immovable contract. If he has to certify that this season, he has to take the Padres somewhere in the playoffs. He has to probably take them to the World Series. I think that's what this deal falls on him now.
I think that there's a very good chance that he does go to take the Padres to. Honestly, I could see the Padres winning the World Series this year. But I know you hate big money deals, but I like this deal a lot.
I just don't like. I didn't like the Mahomes deal when it came out because, again, immovable. It's just the big deals. It's a lot of responsibility on that player's back.
Yeah, and if they get it, that means that the organization thinks they can handle it.
And in a year's time, if it's fine, then I'll respect the decision, like I kind of do with Mahomes now, because I kind of understand that. But I just haven't seen enough of Fernando Tatis yet.
Who won the Carson Wentz trade?
The winner of this trade, honestly, I would like to say that it was the Colts because they got Carson Wentz for basically nothing, but the Eagles managed to get a potential first-round pick back. If Carson Wentz plays 75% of the snaps or 70% and they make the playoffs, that second-round pick turns into a first-round pick. And I think that though Howie Roseman is very, very bad at drafting, I think that getting him the draft pick, extra first-round picks can be used in a trade, maybe to be used in a trade in the future, or to be, or if Howie Roseman gets fired, it can be used by the new GM to show that he's a good new GM.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming with that, but it's definitely the Colts that won this trade. They got Carson Wentz for nothing, and the Eagles took the biggest cap hit in NFL history. So, I mean, the Colts got their quarterback that they're ready to contend with. They have a roster ready to win now. A very good rookie running back coming into his second year. Very, very good defense that's finally developed into the best in the NFL. A very good head coach who with Carson Wentz made him MVP, and I think Carson Wentz will be back to MVP form soon. It's easily the Colts. I get that they can give up a potential first-round pick, but I mean, if you're making the playoffs, you don't care. And the Rams, who haven't had first-round picks in years, they've made the playoffs. They're ready to contend now too.
Yeah, and the Eagles, they also moved the Carson Wentz contract. He didn't, along with the fact that he didn't want to be there because of Howie Roseman, his contract got moved. I understand we took the biggest dead cap hit in NFL history, but that's a contract that's going to pay like $35 million a season or something like that, which is a very big contract, and those contracts are normally really hard to move. So the fact that we managed to get what we got back for him, with the potentially getting a first-round pick for a guy who hasn't played that great in a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where you're coming from with the picks, but I just think the Colts got their quarterback after Phillip Rivers retired. They really haven't had a really good quarterback since Andrew Luck, and I think Frank Reich takes Carson Wentz to another level.
I think that will happen. I just think that the Eagles will be able to capitalize on the picks.
We'll see.
Where will J.J. Watt play next season?
I think that J.J. Watt is going to go one of two places. I think he's going to be a Cleveland Brown or a Pittsburgh Steeler. I think that if he goes to the Browns are a team that's ready to go contend right now. I think that that team overall, they have a really young core. Myles Garrett and J.J. Watt would be a really scary defensive line rotation. And on top of that, on the offensive side of the ball, I think that they're probably going to move Odell Beckham Jr., and they'll probably be able to get maybe a couple more picks for him to use to bolster up the defense. So I also think that J.J. Watt to the Steelers makes sense because then he'd play with both of his brothers, Derek and T.J., and then J.J. Watt and T.J. Watt would be an insane duo off the edge as well.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that is lethal. But I think him going to a team like Green Bay, who needs a prolific edge rusher, and J.J. Watt has that. He's from Wisconsin.
They already have a prolific edge rusher. It's Darius Smith.
They add a prolific edge rusher who is elite. I guess Darius Smith is really good, but adding J.J. Watt just really helps him. And he's from Wisconsin, so he'll be going back home. And I just think that with Aaron Rodgers, who won MVP this year, he's coming off a career year. I think helping that defense was not good last year. The playoffs, they really got shown out. I just think that with J.J. Watt adding to that front line, it'll be huge for them.
I think that the Packers would make sense if they didn't already have a pretty solid D-line. If I'm not mistaken, they still have Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, and then a couple of young guys that they're trying to develop out there. So I don't think they need a defensive lineman. Would J.J. Watt be a nice add? Yes. But will he go there? No. I mean, I understand the homecoming, but the chance to go play for a team that's younger, develop, and win at the same time. Because the Packers are a team with a lot of old veterans on there, and he said that when he left Houston, he doesn't want to be a developer anymore. He wants to be a winner. But if he goes to Cleveland, he can be a developer and a winner. Because I think that Cleveland has a very good chance at making it to the Super Bowl this year.
I mean, I like the Cleveland move. I could see it. I think going there and adding help to Myles Garrett would definitely help him. But again, Green Bay was one play away from the Super Bowl this year. And if they had made it, I think they probably could have won it. But I just think that adding that defensive end opposite Zadarius Smith will help them.
And I think that adding J.J. Watt to the Browns rotation, it would be Sheldon Richardson, Myles Garrett, J.J. Watt, and then they have a couple other guys there. But I'm sticking with him going to the Browns for the sheer fact, one, he'd get to play his brothers twice a year, which I think would be really fun for him, if he doesn't just go play with them. And he's ring chasing. I understand the Packers are ring chasing, but Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, he's won a Super Bowl. That's something that he's going to have for the rest of his life. But over the last couple of years, he hasn't been that great in the playoffs. So I think that he wants to go to a team that, even though it's unproven in the playoffs, has more talent and more likelihood to make it to and even win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I would love the Cleveland move. I mean, I think that's where it'll end up. I said it yesterday on our podcast, but I just think that the Packers definitely makes more sense. But again, they both make sense. I just like the Packers fit more.
I think that they do both make sense, but the Browns are the better option just because of the more well built they are. The Packers have have holes on offense. They only have one really good receiving threat, and he's a great receiving threat, Devontae Adams. Aaron Jones is leaving in free agency, barring a franchise tag, and that secondary in Green Bay needs some help. They have Jair Alexander and Adrian Amos, but other than that, they need a lot of help, and their linebacking core is suffering. So I think J.J. wants to go to a more complete team.
Well, I mean, I think Cleveland's going to win the North as is, and adding him will definitely, I think, cementify that. The Packers, they're pretty much guaranteed to win the North. The only thing I could really see challenging them is Minnesota. I think they're dominant in that division, and J.J. Watt off the edge is too much to handle against any offensive line, that the Bears, Lions, and Vikings don't really have, helps them in that division.
I disagree. I mean, I understand that the AFC North does have a historically good offensive lines, minus the Bengals. But I think that J.J. Watt will be able to run through those with the same amount of ease he does with every other offensive line in the NFL. And the Packers, yes, it's a homecoming. Yes, that team looks more likely to win a Super Bowl. But I don't know if looks like they could win a Super Bowl, but there's too many holes in that team for him to want to say, this team is built well enough for me to just slide in there and then go make a really good playoff run. They don't have if Aaron Jones doesn't get franchise tagged, they don't have a good running back core. I mean, they have Jamal Williams, but that's about it. And then they
still
don't
have A.J. Dillon, who I think is becoming a star.
And then they don't have very many receivers. They have Devontae Adams and then Allen Lazard, who's very inconsistent, and then Robert Tonyan. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I don't know who the linebackers for the Green Bay Packers are. I know who one corner and one safety for them are. And I think that if he goes to the Browns, you know who the linebackers are there. You have Sione Takitaki, you have, there's one other guy's name. And then you have like the corners with Denzel Ward, Grady Jarrett, and then Grant Delpit's going to come back next year after he tore his Achilles before his rookie year.
They were a Grant Delpit away from an AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I do believe that he's going to go to the Browns.
Who was the biggest NBA AllStar snub from the West?
The biggest snub from the West for me, the easy answer here, I think, would be Devin Booker. But I think that DeMar DeRozan deserved to be an All-Star this year. He's taken the Spurs from not making the playoffs last year to 5th in the West this year, averaging 20 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists on 46% shooting. And I think that he took the Spurs team after playing bad last year, and he's the sole reason that they're in the playoffs right now. I do believe that, along with Popovich. And I think that he should get in over, if he were to get in, he should get in over Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis has been in and out this season, and his stats aren't really all that great. I mean, he's shooting 53%, but he's getting 22.5 points, 8.4 rebounds a game. And as a considered to be top 3 big man, you need to be able to put up maybe a couple points wise. You're fine, but at rebounds and assists, which he's only averaging 3, you should be a little bit higher. And the fact that he's been out for a little while definitely takes away from his case of being, in my opinion, of him being an All-Star.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that one. But again, you said Devin Booker is the easiest one, and that's what I'm going to take. I think Devin Booker should be in it. He averages 24.7 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, and 4.3 assists. It's better than most of the people on that team. I think he should have gone in over Chris Paul. I get that Chris Paul is a big reason that Phoenix is kind of in the playoff spot, but Devin Booker carries that team week in, week out. Chris Paul's numbers aren't really great either, 16.6 points per game, 4.5 rebounds a game, and as the point guard, the 8.5 assists are really good, but I mean, as a point, you should be putting out more points. And he only shoots 48%, where Devin Booker shoots 50%. I think Devin Booker is way better than Chris Paul right now, and Devin Booker hasn't even entered his prime yet.
I think that Chris Paul and DeMar DeRozan play similar roles on their teams as veteran leaders, and I think that DeMar DeRozan is playing better than Chris Paul, and so I think he's playing a little bit better than Devin Booker, given the position that he plays. They play different positions, but I think that DeMar DeRozan plays the role that like Chris Paul plays, and I think that Devin Booker, yes, he's playing really well, and Chris Paul got in because of his leadership and his assists. Devin Booker always gets snubbed. I think he's going to stay snubbed unless he wins a championship or something. And I think that DeMar DeRozan, you shouldn't send multiple players from teams unless they're like really, really high up there. The Jazz have multiple All-Stars. The Celtics have multiple All-Stars. And yes, the Celtics aren't playing all that well this season, but they're 2 big players, and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are. And I think that DeMar DeRozan should be in over Anthony Davis, and I think that he's a bigger snub than Devin Booker because he's towards the end of his career and he's still putting up numbers like this. Devin Booker's still less than 25. DeMar DeRozan's like 34.
Well, when you look at the Suns game, you see the scores, you look at the stats, you see Devin Booker putting up 30 points, 40 points. I mean, what he does is ridiculous. He put up a career high. I think he put up 50 or something earlier this year. I mean, it's just ridiculous what he does, and the fact that he didn't make it, I think, is kind of upsetting over Chris Paul.
50 is not his career high. His career high is 70.
Well, that's what he put up this season.
And you said that he's putting up how many assists a game?
4.3.
And I think that Chris Paul is putting up more than that because Chris Paul's a passer, right? And I think that the assists and being a facilitator for your team definitely has to play a big part of it. He gets the shots, he gets the points, but the other stats have to be taken into account. DeMar DeRozan gets the 20 points per game, but he makes up for his lack of points per game by getting almost 7 assists a game. And I think that definitely is the biggest reason why he should be in, is a bigger snub than Devin Booker.
I just think that they probably should both be in, probably the reserves, but I don't think Chris Paul should be in it over Devin Booker, though.
And I don't think Anthony Davis should be an All-Star this year. He's played injured. He hasn't really played all that great, and I think that right now he's more of a burden to the Lakers than a gift.
Yeah.
Who was the biggest All-Star snub from the East?
For me, I think it's got to be Trae Young. I mean, his shooting's okay. It's 43.4, but he averages 9.6 assists per game, 27 points per game. Whenever you look at the stats for the Hawks, he's always the leading guy that you see, putting up lots and lots of points, lots of assists, getting double-doubles every week. I think he's carrying the team, and if they make the playoffs, it'll be because of him. I mean, you look at the rest of the All-Stars and think, who could he get in over the East? I think he should be in over Ben Simmons. And I get that Ben Simmons, he shoots 56.7. And I get that the Sixers are number one, but Trae Young means more to the Hawks than Ben Simmons does to the Sixers. Trae Young, he's the starter on that team, the starting point guard, and he runs everything, whereas I get Ben Simmons as the point in the 76ers team, but they have a lot of supporting role around him.
Yeah. There is a supporting role around Trae Young, but I think the biggest snub is Domantas Sabonis. He's averaging 21.5 points a game, 11.6 rebounds, 5.7 assists, on top of 52% shooting, which I don't think he's a big man that shoots 52%, big deal, but the fact that he doesn't always finish in the paint, he shoots threes, he shoots the mid-range. It's not like Mitchell Robinson having one of the best shooting percentages of all time last year because he only finishes at the basket. He does everything, and his team is fourth in the East. And I think that he should get in over Nikola Vucevic, who's averaging just a little bit more points, one more rebound, but he's averaging 2 less assists. He's averaging 23.9 points a game, 11.7 rebounds, 3.7 assists on 47.8 shooting. And the difference is Sabonis' team is fourth in the East. His team is playing way better, and I think that he's one of the biggest contributing factors to that. Well, Vucevic's team is 12th in the East. And I think that Sabonis would deserve to get in over Trae Young just because of the fact that he has these numbers, his team's playing well, and the fact that he's a big man that's shooting mid-range and threes and getting assists like a point guard. Those are starting point guard level assist numbers right there.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the East standings, I mean, the only 3 teams really have a winning record. The rest of the teams are so bad. And I mean, the 3 teams that we predicted, the Nets, Sixers, and Bucks, are the top. They're top, and I mean, the Pacers are not far behind. But other than that, I mean, the East is just so bad that Charlotte, I think, is 14 and 16 and 7th in the top 8. I just think the East has been really bad this year compared to the West.
I don't think that the East has been that bad. I just think that I think that the teams that everyone wanted to do super good last year aren't doing good because, well, the Heat had less than 3 months of rest before the season started again. The Celtics had just about 3 months of rest. All these teams that were really good in the bubble didn't get that much rest. But teams like the Knicks and the Hornets, they didn't play. Before the season started, they hadn't played since January, which is like a 10-month, 11-month break from basketball where they can just focus on their craft and then be able to come out and just work. And the Nets, they played in the bubble, but they didn't make the playoffs, so they got eliminated really early. And I just think that this isn't an argument over which conference is stronger. Obviously, it's the Western Conference. I just think that Domantas Sabonis should be an All-Star because he's playing amazing basketball, and Vucevic is playing amazing basketball as well, but he's playing amazing basketball on a winning team. And he should get in over Trae because, yes, winning be taken into account? Yes, but it matters that much. And he's being way more efficient than Trae Young.
I mean, look at last season. Trae Young was an All-Star starter, and now this year he's not in the team at all. I mean, Trae Young's always been good his whole career, and he always will be, and I just think that he deserves it over Ben Simmons.
I also think that the Hawks are very much a letdown this season. They did so much in free agency. They took Onyeka Okongwu in the draft, who I thought was a really good prospect. They added Rajon Rondo, Danilo Gallinari. They still have Clint Capella. They have a really good, deep team, but I think that their head coach is holding them back. With their roster construction, they should be a playoff team with Trae Young running the point, Kevin Huerter running the shooting guard, Cam Reddish or DeAndre Hunter running the small forward, and John Collins running the 4, and then Capella starting at 5. I think that's an amazing starting 5, especially with the small forward rotation you have there with 2 young guys. And then off the bench, you have Danilo Gallinari coming off the bench for you. He's one of, in my opinion, in the league, he's one of the best 3-point big men in the league right now. And then I just think that this team has the veteran leadership they need. The only thing that the Hawks don't have is coach, which is exactly what the Pacers have. And that's why Sabonis should be an All-Star, just because of coaching and he's playing way better.
I agree that Sabonis should be in over Vucevic. It's just over Trae Young and Ben Simmons, maybe not. I mean, I get that they're fourth, but I mean, Trae Young's putting up numbers week in, week out, and I get that Sabonis is too, but Trae Young, he carries that team.
Yeah, Sabonis also. Trae Young carries that team, but he also has a really good supporting cast with Collins, who's slightly overrated. I'll give him that. But I think that the Pacers, they have a good starting five, but their bench could use a little bit of work, while the Hawks bench is very much set in stone.
We'll see.
Let's move on to game picks. Warriors versus Pacers.
I like the Pacers in this game. I think that Miles Turner is a great matchup with James Wiseman. I think that Draymond Green versus Domantas Sabonis is going to be a very fun matchup to watch. And Malcolm Brogdon versus Steph Curry. Steph Curry playing point guard at around 6 feet tall, while Malcolm Brogdon plays it at around 6'5". I think that the biggest reason that they might lose this game is because in the James Harden trade, the Pacers got Karis LeVert, and then as his first game as a Pacer, he got injured. So I think that the shooting guard and small forward matchups for the Pacers might be an issue, but I have them winning overall. I think that their defense is way better than the Warriors.
I think this is going to be a very close game. It's going to come down to the wire, but I have the Warriors taking it. I think Curry's going to have a very good night. I think Draymond Green, not scoring-wise, is going to have a very good night defensively. And I just think the Warriors are going to outplay the Pacers. But a very close game, though.
It's going to be a close game. I just think that the Pacers are going to edge it out just by a little bit. I could honestly see this game going to overtime.
Yeah.
Lakers versus Jazz.
3 weeks ago, this would have been a good game before Anthony Davis hurt his Achilles and has tendinitis down there. I think it's going to be the Jazz. The Jazz are on a way too hot of a streak right now. The Lakers are on way too cold of a streak without Anthony Davis. And that team, with the supporting role they have, should be able to make up for some of Anthony Davis's loss, but they've lost 3 straight after vowing to themselves not to lose back-to-back. Now they've lost back-to-back-to-back. And I just think that the Jazz are riding hot streak, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, I got Utah. I mean, they've lost 1 out of the last 10 games, I think it is. They had a very close loss. Most of the Clippers and a close loss. I just think that they're overall right now better than the Lakers, depth-wise. So I think the Jazz will win it. I think it'll go to overtime.
I don't know about overtime for this game.
Mavs versus 76ers.
This is going to be a very fun game to watch. I have the Mavs winning it. I don't think the 76ers are playing well recently. I think Luka is getting back on into his MVP form. So I think the Mavs will edge this one out.
I think that you saying that the Sixers haven't been playing well is blasphemous. The fact that you've been hyping them up, saying they're the first seed in the East right now. Tobias Harris has been playing amazing. Him versus whoever they decide to run at small forward. And then the center matchup, or big man matchup, I guess it would be, because Kristaps Porzingis runs the 4, versus Kristaps Porzingis versus Joel Embiid is going to be a very fun matchup to watch. And then on top of that, you have Ben Simmons versus Luka. I think it's going to be a very fun game to watch. I just think that the 76ers right now are more well built in the starting lineup and a little bit on the bench than the Mavs. And the Mavs are coming out of a slump, while the 76ers are on a bit of a streak right now. So I think that the 76ers and the 76ers star power outweighs the star power of the Mavs.
Very close game.
I think it's going to be the Sixers, though.
Pelicans versus Bucks.
This game, honestly, the Bucks have been very disappointing this year. Giannis won the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year last year. However, I think Giannis is somewhat overrated. I really do. I think his defense is good. He gets the stats, but they don't use him right. And I think that overall, he's a guy who can get into the basket just because of his pure size and strength. I think that if he could shoot the 3 ball efficiently, shoot like the mid-range efficiently, he'd be a way better player. But I think that the Pelicans, I think the Zion versus Giannis matchup is going to be very fun to watch. I do have the Bucks winning it. I just think that it's going to be a closer game than most people are going to think it is.
Yeah, I have the Bucks winning too. I think Chris Middleton is going to have a very, very good game, helping out Giannis. I just think that they're both really good. I think Chris Middleton is one of the more underrated players in the league, so I think that the Bucks are going to overweigh Pelicans.
And a Drew Holiday revenge game against the Pelicans.
Yeah, forgot about that one.
Warriors versus Lakers.
Very, very fun game to watch.
Yeah.
Lakers are on a down skid. Warriors have been kind of heating up the last couple games, but I think the Lakers are going to win this one. I don't think LeBron's going to if they do lose to the Jazz, I don't think LeBron's going to let them go on a 5-game losing streak. So I think he's going to step up, have a very good game against Curry. So give me the Lakers in a very, very, very close game.
I think that this game is going to be interesting even without Anthony Davis. I think that Draymond versus Kuzma might be a fun matchup to watch, along with Montrezl Harrell and James Wiseman. I don't think James Wiseman is playing right now.
I don't think so. I think he's still injured.
I think it would be against Marquise Chris. I think that this game is going to be very fun to watch. I think that the Lakers, just because they're a better built team at the moment, are going to pull this one out.
Kings versus Hornets.
This is going to be a fun game to watch. De'Aaron Fox versus LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball doesn't play very much defense at all, and he's going to be going up against the fastest player in the NBA. It's either him or Westbrook, but it's in a race. I think De'Aaron Fox would win. And then I think that there's a lot of good matchups to watch in this game. I think that I would like to say the Kings are going to win it, but they're spiraling downwards after going on a 6-game win streak, beating a bunch of really good teams in a row. They've lost 10 in a row. Some to good teams, some to bad teams. So I have the Hornets winning this one.
Yeah, I have the Hornets winning too. I think LaMelo's going to have a very good game, and I don't think Luke Walton is a very good head coach.
Neither do I. Oh my God, we have so much in common.
The Kings should get rid of him. I think Luke Walton's definitely holding this team back. The Kings have potential to be a very, very good team, but again, the head coaching is just horrible. So I think LaMelo and the Hornets are going to take this one.
To put it in perspective, Luke Walton missed the playoffs with LeBron James on his roster. Granted, he was injured for a good part of the season. He still managed to miss the playoffs with LeBron James on his roster. So,
yeah.
Mavs
versus Nets.
This is going to be a very fun game to watch. I think that the Nets are going to pull it out. They're riding way too high, and they beat a really good Pacific Division, which consists of the Warriors, Lakers, Clippers, Suns, and Kings. They beat them all in a row on a road trip, and they weren't even at full strength. Some games only Harden played. Some games it was just Harden and Kyrie, and some games it was just Kyrie. I think that this team is just, their star power is too much for the Mavs to handle.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very good game. I think it'll go down to the wire here, and I think that the Nets are going to end up pulling it out. Harden has been playing very good recently. Kyrie has been playing very good recently. I just think the Nets' depth, well, not the depth, but their starting five will be better than the Mavs. I think the Nets take it.
The Nets have some depth after the trade that they made. They still have Landry Shamet, who I think is very underrated, and they have a couple other guys who I can't think of off the top of my head. I think that this Nets team is just better built than the Mavs at the moment, and I think that they're playing way better than the Mavs are. Luka's been really inefficient, and I think if Luka can get his efficiency back, I'll start picking the Mavs. But he's been putting up the same numbers, but not on the same efficiency.
Again, I think Luka's been putting up really good numbers apart from that one game when they got back from the snowstorm break. So I think when he put up only 21, but the games before that he's putting up 44, 46, 45. So I think it'll be a very close game. I think Luka's going to have another good game, but I just think the Nets overall will be better than them.
Yeah, it's going to be the Nets.
Bucks versus Clippers.
It's going to be the Clippers. The Bucks, they're a good team. They're built somewhat well, but the Clippers and Giannis, I haven't seen much about Giannis this year. He's putting up the same somewhat good numbers this year. I just think that the Clippers team is playing way too well. Paul George is honest, in my opinion. Paul George should be in the MVP conversation, and Kawhi Leonard has been playing pretty well. This Clippers team has overall just been playing really well, and I think that they're going to beat the Bucks.
I think the Clippers are going to win this one too. I mean, everyone makes fun of Paul George because of what he did in the playoffs, but he's still a very, very good player. In the regular season, he's been putting up very good numbers. I think he's going to have a very good game. I think Kawhi defensively is going to have a very good game. So I have the Clippers winning this one.
I agree.
That's it for this week's edition of Beyond the Sidelines. I'm Chase Dykema, joined with Will Stevenson and Anthony Savani.